Yay, Media Group.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Fitish podcast. Yes, if you watch this, you notice that it's me and me alone today. Have no fear, though. Francisco and I are fine, I think. We've had a little bit of a change of plans in terms of our life situation at the moment, and he's actually in the middle of dealing with this right now. As you know, we moved to a small surf town in Baja, California, Mexico, about, 6 months ago, and it's been glorious. So we haven't had any, issue with our decision, but we've had a bit of a housing crisis arise. And it's really been a bummer. And I think I'll wait for him next week to dive into that a little bit more for the show. But we've spent the last month on kind of what is our summer vacation here, traveling around a bit, spending some time with family in Mexico City, the Disney trip, obviously, from the last podcast you heard, which was just so wonderful. We're still having a hard time coming down from that. So, highly recommend a trip to Disney with your little ones if you can carve it out. But yeah, we've had a bit of a housing crisis down here. And I think, on today's episode, I was going to talk a little bit about the life challenges we've been having and then dive into the real struggles that I've been having personally with, this decision to move, because I think it's important to always remain really honest with y'all. And, housing when it comes to just finding a place in a smaller town can be quite difficult, and the place that we chose to live here, there's not a lot of housing, to be quite honest. It's really just an Airbnb that we rented, 6 months at a time. And since we've had some challenges with that, with the landlord, and it's just been kind of an unfortunate situation, to be honest. But, that's kind of what you're going to get. You kind of have this wild card when it comes to renting from someone, especially someone that lives on the property. You just never really know what you're going to get. And this is a place in Todos Santos, specifically, is where we've been living, about an hour north on the Pacific coast of from Cabo San Lucas. And what a dream of a place this is. We absolutely love it. So we've kind of been in this position of trying to find another home, and we've really struggled with that. And Francisco right now has been in Dallas. Right now, at this moment, as I'm recording, I believe Francisco is somewhere in between Dallas and the border of Mexico in a giant U-Haul with all of our furniture, because we are finding a new place to live. And, part of what I'll get into is kind of our need for wanting our things. I didn't realize quite how much I would miss our things until spending an extended amount of time, because let's be real, like, how many of us have ever spent 6 months in a Airbnb that's furnished with someone else's things? And it's probably been one of my least favorite parts about that, but I'll dive into my list here in a little bit. So yeah, Fran is doing the Lord's work for the family right now and dealing with a lot of that, because logistically, that part is really difficult, kind of figuring out how to get stuff moved across the border. Hey, I'll tell you what, though, we've become experts on this, I think, with all the work we've had to put in. And I think the hard part for us has been like how much it takes us out of pocket from each other, from family time, from work time, to make this move. And Fran and I have just decided as a family how important it is to us to just find a place that can be more long term, that we can have our furniture in, because, you can't really put a price on stability of just like your day to day family life. And so, yeah, so that's what we're prioritizing right now, getting ourselves into a place that has more stability for the long term. And no, don't worry, we're staying in Mexico. We absolutely love our decision to move down here and love it very, very much. But, that being said, with some of the issues that we've had as of late, it just makes a lot more sense for us as a family to have our own space. And I think that, one of the struggles that I've had personally is, it's all fun and games when you go on vacation, right? When you're on vacation mindset, but things are expected to be different when you go on vacation. Things are expected to be out of sorts, and your sleeping schedule's different. Your sleeping arrangements are different. And of course, I had a lot of that when we were in Mexico City with family on air mattresses and that sort of thing, which was so funny, by the way, as an only child growing up, to have all of this family on air mattresses all over the house, very like Home Alone style. And I thought that I would hate it, and I don't hate it at all. I mean, I would hate it if it was permanently that way, but I didn't hate it at all. It was so nice and fun to have so much family around, so much support with Remy. It really got me thinking, like, wow, I think I'd like to live closer to all of my, Mexican in-laws and family because I just think culturally there's something so different about that. But I digress because, one of the issues Fran and I have had in this current housing situation that we're in is that Remy is in our room. And of course, over time, it's one thing when you're staying with family for a week, but Fran and I have had almost like zero alone time when it comes to sleeping. I mean, even in Disney World, of course, like he's sleeping with Remy in a bed and I'm alone and staying with family, Remy's sleeping with us. So I think it's definitely obviously from, what couples with young children, y'all recognize it's definitely gotten in the way of our relationship when you have a child that sleeps in your bedroom. Because I'm not about to be having sex like with my child sleeping in the bed with us, right? So it's definitely been a bit of an issue for us that we've been trying to resolve because we knew this wasn't going to be a permanent, thing in this particular house. But um, yeah. So, it's really put into perspective. I think the coolest thing that we've done is making that leap and decision to kind of leave the US, put everything in storage, right? And just take a step away and reset and as a family and go, what matters to us, right? What really matters deep down to us when it comes to parenting, when it comes to our relationship, when it comes to our day to day, our work, our life, the location that we're living on and on. You get it. So, I do think that by I hate to use the word abandon, but by pausing kind of our life and everything we thought for the last kind of 15 years, the status quo of what we had and what we needed, by putting that on hold for a little while, it's really given us time to assess what are our fundamental, absolute requirements when it comes to a house, when it comes to a living situation, when it comes to, where we're living and working and that sort of thing. And we've gained so much perspective in the last 6 months on what we want as a family. And I think it's made us very malleable, very versatile. It has been hard on Remy. It's been harder than I like to admit. And I know that in the long run, right, we have to believe that deep down our kids are so resilient. But to have him have moments where, he misses this when we were gone for a month, or he misses, or he'll make comments about Dallas. And I think, does he really still remember Dallas, or does he just know Dallas because we are in Dallas, working and we talk about it when either one of us has to go and work. But if we move from here, is he going to miss his relationships here? And I like to believe that this adventure that we're on for the next few years, we don't intend on moving him around every year for eternity. We're really just looking to figure out where we want to settle for that longer chapter again, because we knew that for us, we didn't really want to stay in that same location for another 15 to 18 years. And anyway, we've had so much nice perspective with this whole thing. And it's been really nice to be back in Toto Santos for this time. The weather's starting to get a lot nicer here. I'm sure you can hear some of the wind being picked up by my mic. But it's just so beautiful to not sit outside and speak to y'all and enjoy the nature and the beach and what this land has to offer here. And sadly, it's really difficult to find a home here. Fran and I just weren't really in a place after selling a home that we wanted to just turn around and dive into building. And if you're considering moving to a place like this that's much smaller, that is so unexpected, right? Because so many of us that live in, even medium-sized towns, there's so much real estate, there's so much housing for rent and apartments and um, that sort of thing, right? That you can rent these long-term unfurnished apartments. And it's impossible to find that here, right? So everywhere I turn, it's here. You can have 3 months here, you can have 6 months here. And I'm kind of at that place of I can't do that anymore. I think it takes me out of pocket so much from life on a day to day that that's just not fun for me to be looking at housing and worried about where's next and that sort of thing. So we've really been looking for a longer term, more kind of sustainable plan for the family. So that is something to consider. If you want to move somewhere like this, you really need to either dive in on building something small or buying something. And we just didn't want to make that commitment because how do you want to turn around and spend all your money on something when you haven't even really given the place, but a few months of living? So that still is a plan for this area for us. We really want to build something here to live in, part time or hopefully have some of y'all rent it out or something. So I think it really living here really kind of teaches you what you need because we certainly are far away from things here, from groceries and from conveniences and that sort of thing. It's been really refreshing sometimes to go back to the United States and go, wow, y'all, we have it really good in the United States when it comes to modern conveniences and let's be honest, like being lazier. So it's such an adjustment to move somewhere where life is much simpler and slower. But it's been such an amazing challenge for personal growth and such a life lesson for all of us in a lot of ways. And I also think it's just been a great opportunity for Remy to enjoy the outdoors a little bit more. That being said, I don't want to be high on this podium because we still do screen time. And I think I thought maybe being down here, I would do less. I think we do less for sure than we did when we were living in Dallas. And we're not pulling out our phones during dinners and stuff because he has more room to run around. But I don't think that that's necessarily a, United States versus Mexico thing. I think it's just kind of a location-based thing, probably, right? If you live in a smaller town, I'm sure it's more comfortable to let your kids run around outside than it is being in a bigger city in general. But I will say Mexico culture for me is just it truly is so much better than a lot of the culture I feel that we have in the United States when it comes to raising children. And a lot of people, I haven't spent enough time in Europe. I haven't been in Europe since I've had a child, but everyone says in Europe, there's a lot of places that are very similar. Like kids are very welcome in so many other countries, and you don't realize how unfriendly parts of the United States are to kids until you go to your favorite restaurant you used to go to as a couple and they don't have high chairs and you go, oh, wow, they don't want us here. And you don't experience that anywhere in Mexico to the point that, staff is playing with your child at the restaurant. And I think it's just been so incredible to get to experience more of that, more than I would on a normal day to day when you just come down here for vacation or something, to have family around. And everyone's like, even at the beach yesterday, I noticed I met two women, one with a child. They were girlfriends. They live, they both live in Cabo San Lucas and they work in the hotels. They're Mexican. They had moved from Acapulco when Acapulco got destroyed by, just really all the awful hurricanes that they've had the last few years. And so a lot of people were obviously very displaced from their homes, especially if they were resort workers. And I met this woman who spoke great English and we had such a nice conversation about um, family and kids and kind of the culture of raising children in Mexico and, in her life working at a resort that caters mostly to American tourists down in Cabo. And, she quite likes her job there, actually. She says it's a really great gig, but just that how much they enjoy, just kind of being by the beach and raising kids in Mexico and how family centered it is. And it's something I've really noticed with women here, even the American women that have moved here is that everyone kind of helps each other out. And I wish we did more of that in the United States. There's so much of this. Hey, do you need to go to the store? Do you need anything from the store? Do you need me to watch the kids so you can get some errands done? That sort of thing. And I don't know about y'all, but I didn't encounter that mentality as much in the United States. And it felt so lonely for me as a mother, despite the fact that I have some great, solid girlfriends. But why is it that when we become moms, we're so isolated from our friends? Because we're so busy, right? Like we're so busy working and momming that you barely can connect with some of your friends. You lose friends that are in a different stage of life. And then it's a very lonely journey, this early part of motherhood. And down here, I wouldn't say, you're not avoiding elements of that, but women down here, are like watching each other's kids on the beach and just much more helpful than I have found women in the United States to be, because I think we're all very much, I can do it myself, right? Like, I'm going to go to the store today. I'm going to load the kids up. I'm going to go to the store. You do everything by yourself all day. But here, it's just so much more of like a community effort. And I really love that. And that is very cool in this beginning stage of parenthood, because obviously these first 5 years, from what everyone says, can be really daunting and laborious, like on a day-to-day basis. So that's been really wonderful. But we do have some exciting kind of family changes and announcements that we'll get to you next week, possibly from a different location, a different background. And I'm really looking forward to it. But this part of kind of moving and logistics is so stressful, so tough. I've been crying a lot. And also stressful about getting, furniture moved down here. I didn't realize how daunting and expensive that process was going to be. And Fran, you're such a champion for being on the road in a 25-foot U-Haul in the middle of nowhere, Texas, right now, trying to figure out the best way to get furniture to us and our Halloween decorations. More on that later. No. Um, but yeah, still no regrets in this decision, but we're definitely at this place of possibly a new adventure on the precipice of that. So when I come back from this commercial break, I have made a list, the horsey. I've made a list of my top 5 most difficult hurdles since living here. And also some solutions that go along with that. But yeah, kind of the top 5 things that I've really sat down and thought about so I can be very straightforward and honest with you if you are on the fence about moving your family down here. And maybe some of them aren't as big of a deal as you think. Maybe some of them are, but we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to miss having a farm behind me. Y'all probably won't. That donkey needs some major attention. I'm going to take a quick break and tell you about one of my favorite new sponsors and new finds that we have joining the Fitish podcast, and I'll be right back. Daily Look is a sponsor of the Fitish podcast. Y'all have known me for a while, and you know that I can be pretty particular about clothes and style and what I wear. And frankly, I've always been a little hesitant to do subscription services because I felt that I wasn't ever going to be matched with a whole array of things that I would actually like. And I was so excited to try Daily Look, and I really liked the personalized quiz that I took because they showed me different outfits and said, do you like this? Do you like this? Because frankly, like I'm not really a pattern person. I don't tend to wear a lot of patterns. I like things that can be a little more evergreen, should we say, things that I can wear and rewear that are more timeless and kind of, blazers and, t-shirts and dresses and things that I can, jeans, for instance, things that I can just rewear all of the time. And so I did this quiz, and Daily Look sent me 12 different items of clothing. And y'all, I was so blown away and excited. Some of them are a little more fall oriented. So as soon as it gets cooler, I can't wait to wear them. And I tell you that I opened this box in front of my mom and my mother-in-law, and they started fighting over items. And I said, no, 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 y'all don't understand. This is my Daily Look box. This is for me. Now, maybe I'll share since we all live close together. Maybe I'll share with you. But I mean, I got cute sweaters. I was so impressed. I was actually so shocked. I was going item by item going, wait, I love this. Wait, I'm going to wear this right now. This is so great. So the coolest part about Daily Look is you just, you don't have to keep everything, right? You just keep what you like. They'll charge you for that. But you don't have to go to the mall. You don't have to worry about kind of putting outfits together. They're going to send you this great assortment of items, and then you get to say yay or nay. And then it's obviously so easy to just like throw the label on with the bag, return it, and again, they're only going to charge you for what you keep, and you don't have to pay for the shipping. It's free shipping both ways. I've been so excited to wear some of my new pieces from Daily Look. I know that you're going to love it too. And I have a little bit of a discount for you. Get your own personal stylist with Daily Look. Head to dailylook.com to take your style quiz. Use the code FITISH for 50% off your order. Once again, that's dailylook.com. Use the code FITISH for 50% off of your order. Make sure you always use FITISH so they know that I sent you. You're going to love it. Welcome back to the Fitish podcast. It's Jenna doing this episode solo today. This is my first solo episode ever, and hopefully it's palatable for you still. And Fran will be with us next week. Don't worry. Our relationship is still in good standing for now, I hope. But it has been a stressful period of time for us. I think, one of the other things we did not consider, and this did not make my cut of like my top 5 struggles when it comes to moving abroad, but it's definitely something to consider, is that we are both making, I wouldn't say frequent, but every 6 to 8 weeks sure does come pretty quickly. Life moves fast, and kind of the cost of travel, right? Especially considering we are flying out of the Cabo San Lucas airport to Dallas or to Austin. And we didn't really anticipate that this time of year, November to March here in Cabo, is a very expensive, very high season for this part of the country. And this is when the people with, second homes come down a lot, and for holidays. And I just dare you, I encourage you to Google an economy flight from where you live to Cabo San Lucas, and it's just astronomical. So we've kind of been going, oh my gosh, we didn't even consider when we moved here how expensive flights were going to get to this part of the country, which really add up if you're doing it every 6 or 8 weeks. So that's definitely been a bit of a want want for us. Going to Mexico City instead and flying to Dallas to kind of offset that. So just something to consider where you live, like what seasons look like with tourists and flight prices if you do have to travel back home. If you're fully remote, oh my gosh, I couldn't recommend it enough because what a dream of a place. And the weather here, I mean, you can see I'm in a short sleeve sweater right now, but it's still warm, but the weather is about to drop quite considerably. So, yes, for those of you that always ask me when you see my stories, Jenna, isn't it really hot there? I mean, you're 17 hours south of where, Texas. It's like, actually, y'all know the weather is pretty incredible down here. Really hot, I would say for like 1 or 2 months, but still manageable because you're by the ocean and not as hot as Dallas and not humid. September, I guess, is the worst, and that's why we got out of town for hurricane season. But yeah, November and the rest, it's like full sweater weather on the beach, like almost too cold, to lay out on the beach, but the water's actually really warm. And I was supposed to take a surf lesson this morning, but some stuff came up work wise, so I wasn't able to do it. I didn't get a chance to pick up my surf habit yet that I intended on. So hopefully I'm going to get out there this weekend and do my first surfing excursion of the season down here. But getting into a little bit of the things that I've struggled with the most. And it was really interesting because I follow a lot of creators, right? But especially before we made this lifestyle change, I follow a lot of people that have done this already, whether it's to Mexico or to Europe, Spain. Fran and I still fantasize about living in Europe too. And a woman got on there and said, I know this may sound ridiculous and I love living in Spain, but this time of year gets really tough because, and I never thought that this time of year would be tough. I didn't realize how much I love fall or the image of fall in the United States. And so, for those of you that love and kind of romanticize fall, whether it's, football, pumpkin spice, leaves falling, tailgates, the kind of the sports season, right? Of course, pumpkin patches and Halloween, and then everything that follows from there. It's very different here. I mean, obviously, you're on the beach. So I do see some Halloween decorations, and I'm excited about Day of the Dead because I do think, well, there's new holidays and different kind of seasonal things when you move. And part of moving is adapting to a new culture and a new way of life. But it's okay, right? I should be allowed to admit, oh, I want more Halloween and my child loves it and I want to give that to him. So I would say the seasonal differences is for sure a struggle. I'd really love to be decorating for Halloween right now. And but I don't have anything to decorate with. And so I've just been kind of trying to ride the wave of that. But at the same time, I realize how important that is to me. And especially as a mom now, I want to offer my child all of these great things. Christmas is a big deal here. But, living where we live more remote, it's really difficult to get the same kinds of things. So, yeah, I do miss that. I think that's why Fran is currently moving our items because we realize how much we miss our personal personal items, which brings me to my, number four thing, which frankly is probably up there with my number one. These are in no particular order, but our personal items. We really miss having certain furniture items. And I thought when I put everything in storage, it's just stuff. I remember crying over that dining table that took me like 9 months to get. And it weighed 900 pounds. And then someone offered me money and I sold it. And I miss it every day because I used it one time. And I really love the dining table. And then I think, oh my God, it's just a piece of furniture. It's so stupid. But as an adult, right, when we finally start buying some good things that we like here and there and being a homebody, how I am, oh, I love nesting. I love that. I didn't even get a chance to decorate that house in Dallas, really. And I living in someone else's home that they've curated and decorated, it still feels so off limits. You never feel quite comfortable in someone else's home. I think if this was with our stuff, great, but living with someone else's things all the time, especially with a toddler, becomes kind of a grind because you're constantly saying, no, 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 don't touch that. That's not ours. Don't break that. And I don't think a childhood should be that way. He needs more safe space that he can destroy the couch if he wanted to, or accidentally, right? Like things happen with toddlers and they should have their own room that they can climb and do whatever they want. And it's really no big deal and it's a safe space for them. So that's something that I didn't really consider to be as much of a factor. Um, Living in someone else's furnished home for this long of a period of time, I would just not recommend it. I would just like to tell you, don't do it. Don't do it. Do it as long as you must until you find a place that you can kind of make your own home. So yeah. Okay. So our personal items, our seasonal, not just decor, but the seasonal things. So you're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss some of that. Unless you have no soul, you hate all the holidays, then you'd be fine. I'm still greatly looking forward to Dios de los Muertos down here. So I think that'll be a really nice thing for all of us. Something else that's made the cut for me that I've had a lot of perspective going back and forth is when you get sick and you are alone, there is no Uber Eats. And as great as it is for the bank account, and probably for your waistline also to not have access to insomnia cookie delivery at night and velvet taco, as Fran and I were in a very unhealthy habit of doing all the time, by the way. I mean, I think I used Uber Eats every day. Um, it gets that overconsumption, right? So I've been in this overconsumption rehab, but there is still something that is so fabulous about the ability to get online and order medicine to be delivered to your house when you don't feel good. And when I was here, we had just gotten back to town and Fran's out of town and I needed groceries. We haven't been here for 5 or 6 weeks and we had nothing in the refrigerator. So um the little stores in town are great, but I really needed some other things and some gluten-free items for Remy and things that I can't really find at the smaller mercados here. So, I had to do a 45-minute drive to the grocery store and I was feeling really run down and not that great. And I thought, it was pouring down rain. And it's a beautiful drive, don't get me wrong. But I thought to myself, what I wouldn't give right now to just get on an app and order grocery delivery here, on those kinds of days, right? Where you just don't feel like making the effort to go get medicine or go to the store. It's a big deal. It really is. It's a big deal. Along those lines, I had a package or two confiscated that I tried to get shipped from my business, some production samples, things it wasn't that it was of high value monetarily, but it was of high value, business wise. Like you can't put a value amount on something like that on these samples from a lab and they just never made it to me. And so I think kind of just going back to the what you're accustomed to with like ordering things online. And now that's not everywhere in Mexico, obviously. You live in Mexico City or a bigger city like that, you're going to have all of that and access to that. But, when you live somewhere like we do that's quite a bit more remote, there's obviously a lot of good and bad that comes along with that. And that just happens to be something that makes the list for me. I have my list on my computer, so I didn't forget. Um, Personal space has been something that I didn't consider would be as much of an issue with the living scenario. Going back to earlier in the show, I had brought this up about kind of Fran and I not having really enough alone time. And I think him and I know what our goal is. And we know that this wasn't permanent, this living scenario, but it's definitely presented some challenges lately with kind of our child sleeping with us or in his bed in the same room as us and being able to crawl into bed and Fran going to bed with him at night and then not coming out. I mean, we have not had really much time together for a while. And I miss it. I miss those nights of putting Remy down to sleep. And even if Fran and I were, laying in bed watching a movie and going to sleep, we at least had a little more connection than we do right now. So that's definitely something to consider is how important the layout of a house is, which I know sounds silly. Like, Jenna, of course it is. I know that as a parent, but I think we were really limited with our options when it came to what we were able to rent down here. And it just didn't work out quite the way that we had hoped. So that's definitely for the next house that we're looking at moving to, everyone having their own room and their own space. And same with my mom, kind of getting her own space that's not in our home. And going to have Candy on the show today, but she's, of course, watching Remy. So I know we've had some requests for my mom to join and share her experience. And she's doing great post eye surgery, by the way. She had double eye surgery in Mexico City, about a fourth of the cost that it would have been in the United States. And she's doing great. She no longer has double vision and she's healing really nicely. So that's really exciting. I know we talked about medical on one of the last shows. So yeah, just kind of having our private space has been a bit more of an issue. And then for me, this wouldn't be number one on the list, but work has been more challenging to navigate than I would like to admit. And so, running a business remotely, so many people I've met down here do this, right? And I think it's not just the managing of the business in general. I think it's when you move somewhere that's so slow. Even for instance, me doing this podcast today, it's going to take me like hours to get it uploaded. And, when you're on 5G back in the States, this podcast would only take like 10 minutes for me to upload. And I know that's a very niche thing and probably doesn't apply to a lot of your lives, but it is something definitely to consider. We lose power a lot here, and I know that that's an issue that Mexico has in general. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of Latin American countries too going beneath us that have that issue with the grid and the system. But I would say that for me has been a huge frustration. In the beginning of being down here, it's like, oh, it's okay, I'll do it tomorrow. But that do it tomorrow mentality doesn't get you very far. When you're working and you're hustling and you're trying to make money and earn a business, I need to get it done. I need to get it done now. I need to be really efficient and effective with my time. And, that's been really hard to carve out, not having a dedicated office space and being able to shut out the world and losing power in the middle of a meeting. It can really disrupt the workflow of things. And so that's just something really major to consider. And a lot of the people that have built houses down here have solar panels, which, can really help offset all of that. But, the house we're living in right now does not have that. So I'm just kind of at the disposal of nature down here. And to be quite honest, I mean, we're losing power quite frequently in the last few months. I mean, every day for a few minutes or a few hours. And I don't love it. I can be honest. And even if it makes me sound high maintenance, I don't love it. But aside from those items, I think that those would be my real standout things to consider about the location that you're considering moving to, because you're not going to have to deal with that everywhere. There's obviously much larger, more sophisticated Mexico cities than where we're living right now. Now, you will miss the elements of this kind of like unrefined nature that we have everywhere, because with development comes I think, destroying a lot of this. So it's kind of a give and a take. I think in my ideal world, I would like to be able to spend time both a little bit in a city and here, just to kind of make workflow and life balance a little bit easier. But we absolutely have no intention on returning to the States full time anytime soon, unless something were to arise that, obviously work related or emergency related that called us back. It's been a real fun and wild journey. And I can't believe that it's been 6 months. And I can't believe that it's only been 6 months, if that makes sense. It almost feels like I've been here longer and just kind of figuring out the way and really been working on my Spanish. I feel that we really grow as people when we put ourselves in scenarios that were incredibly uncomfortable. And I wasn't experiencing the level of growth that I feel now, professionally, personally, as I am kind of putting myself in this scenario. And I'm sure a lot of you, even if you've never kind of moved abroad, you've had a taste of that when you've had a rough travel experience or an incredible travel experience and you've gotten uncomfortable, right? You come back from that and you feel somewhat changed and you never really forget it. So I love that for us as like kind of a couple and a family in general, because I think that we're all, even though we've had moments of total discomfort and stress and unfamiliarity and learning a new language and all of these things, I think that deep down, it's pretty fucking cool. It's pretty cool to see my child's Spanish just really taking off from, being so immersed in this language and culture. And I can't wait to kind of see how he grows from that sort of experience. Hopefully he's adaptable. I mean, we definitely have our days. I think a lot of change and moving around has been difficult for him in certain ways. And I'm ready for him to have his own bedroom and his own space, because I think he'll feel a lot more confident and independent with that. But What an incredible journey this has been for us. We have a very exciting life change update, as I referenced. I don't know if any of you know, but I'm going to wait on Francisco to fill you in on that. So I hope you come back and join us next week, and it'll probably be a far better episode because it won't just be Jenna alone yapping about things. So we'll see you next week. Bye.